Hi, I'm Gwen Baumgardner. Welcome to Straight Arrow News. Today I want to talk about the tension on Capitol Hill. Normally it's between Republicans and Democrats, but today a little different. The source of that drama going back and forth between Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky and Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Until you accept responsibility, we're not going to get anywhere close to trying to prevent another lab leak of this dangerous sort of experiment. You won't admit that it's dangerous, and for that lack of judgment, I think it's time that you resign.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, there were so many things that are egregious misrepresentation here, Madam Chair, that I don't think I'd be able to refute all of them.
But this tension has been going on for months, looking at gain of function, the origin of the pandemic. But I'm going to pull in my colleague, Annie Andersen. Annie, our worlds are kind of colliding. You are in D.C., you've been following the politics, and you followed today's hearing. But what was the purpose of today's matchup between Fauci and Paul?
That is kind of a whole other story, but let's talk about the full committee hearing. So this is something that they've been doing pretty routinely, like where we are in COVID, where do we go from now? And we saw that a lot of senators were focusing on that, just pushing ahead. Senator Kaine said, hey, I had COVID about a year ago. I'm still having symptoms. Are you doing research on long COVID? Where do we go? How do we keep evolving our COVID research and everything? And Dr. Fauci said, yeah, we're getting to that. Well, right up next after Senator Kaine was Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. And this wasn't really a back and forth kind of thing. Senator Paul came in with a prepared statement and even had an easel behind him with quotes ready to go. And he spoke about the gain of function. He also wanted Dr. Fauci to take the blame for being responsible for the entire pandemic.
I have no responsibility for the current pandemic. The current pandemic, okay? Number two, you said the overwhelming amount of evidence indicates that's a lab leak. I believe most card-carrying viral phylogenists and molecular virologists would disagree with you. You made a statement just a moment ago that's completely incorrect, where you say we continue to support research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
You approved it in August of last year.
No, your statement says, quote, I wrote it down as you were writing. You continue to support research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
You were in committee.
I don't have any more to say except to say that, as usual, and I have a great deal of respect for this body of the Senate, and it makes me very uncomfortable to have to say something, but he is egregiously incorrect in what he says. Thank you.
Obviously, in Congress, things often get contentious, but this one has been just brewing and building. It started about a year ago when they kind of had their first exchange about COVID, and since then, they have just escalated.
Well, what's so interesting is, the focus is this term gain of function, which is hard to kind of wrap people's heads around. So I am working on a piece about gain of function to kind of break down for someone who's not a scientist like myself, what is it? And so gain of function is when an organism, like a virus, is mutated to give it a function. So whether it makes it deadlier or spreads faster, and that is something that can happen naturally. It can also happen in a lab. And when it happens in a lab, that's when all of these theories kind of take off. And that's exactly why people are pointing to Wuhan, China, is because a laboratory there does gain of function research. And then going back to that connection between Fauci and Paul, Fauci leading the National Institutes of Health, they have been connected to a grant that they gave that then gave money to the Wuhan lab. But I am curious, so going back from that context of gain of function, what is the purpose of this line of questioning between Paul and Fauci? Is it to get at what is the origin of the pandemic? Did it come from a lab leak in Wuhan? Or is it saying, Dr. Fauci, you said this was not gain of function, but instead, maybe it is gain of function. So what is the purpose of this back and forth and things getting so heated? Annie, can you give me any context on that?
So I think it's a little bit of everything. One, I think that we're at the point now where we know that Dr. Fauci and Senator Paul are not going to agree on these things. In fact, experts have said that we may never know the exact origin of COVID. So it'd be a lot for Dr. Fauci to come out and say, yes, I was wrong. This is it, when we may not know that. Another thing that he talked about was the changing definition of gain of function. And as you mentioned, the funding of this lab. Dr. Fauci today said, you're continuing to fund it. And Dr. Fauci in response said, oh no, I did not say that. Why are you saying that? And so a lot of it, I think, is also maybe playing to your base and doing what has worked in the past and everything. But at this point, we need to realize the two sides are not going to agree. And, I don't want to say move on, but it is what it is.
Right. Well, earlier today, we were kind of joking about it, but you likened it to a soap opera because there are so many twists and turns, and there are probably viewers who are saying, okay, I do not understand this gain of function. I don't understand how it plays into. But the good news is that any future hearings we will live stream on our website. Next week, I will publish that in-depth piece, gain of function. And Annie, I'm sure that this topic will continue to come up because it did not look like today's tension between Fauci and Paul was over yet.
Yeah, there will be future HELP committee hearings as we progress through the pandemic. So we will be sure to bring those all to you.
Thanks so much, Annie.